comment on my position on the Vietnamese War. I voted for the Mansfield Amendment. I'll vote for it again. Want us out. I don't think I was smart enough to have realized 10 years ago that we shouldn't have been there. It's easy now to look back in retrospect and say how stupid we were. And I would have liked to think I would have had that wisdom, but I probably wouldn't. I just hope that we have learned a lesson by the Vietnam War. That's about all I can say. Yeah. Then I'll take you. Do I think the Mansfield Amendment will pass the Senate? Mike's going to offer it again to the military procurement bill, the same one he offered to the draft. Yeah, I think it'll pass the Senate. I think it'll go to the House, and the House will get rid of it or water it down, and it will come back in a conference report in a watered-down fashion. And then a conference report, something passes the Senate in one fashion and it passes the House in the other, and so you have conferees from the House and the Senate get together, try to harmonize the differences. But under the rules of both the House and the Senate, here's where the real problem comes. When the conference report comes back to be voted on, you can't amend it. You vote for it or against it. And so if the conferees water down or take out the Mansfield Amendment, you don't have a chance to put it back in on the floor. So you're stuck. Yes. What is Senator Hughes's future on the national political scene? Hard to tell. He honestly, I served on the banking committee with him in our first year, and I serve on the labor and public welfare committee with him now, and he's one of the most unusual men I've ever met in politics. And I don't mean that derogatorily, he's just unusual. He's a powerful, physically powerful, oratorically powerful man, extraordinary conviction, a great convincing speaker. But I don't know. I don't know what his future is. He's totally different from anybody I've ever seen in politics. And he might have the capacity that I talked about earlier. He might have the capacity I talked about earlier to be the person that could inspire this nation. I can't tell. He's got that evangelical quality that most of us would like to have and lack. Yeah. Do I equate population with the environmental question? Has the president done enough, or is in essence environment last year's issue, like civil rights was in the early '60s or something like that? Well, I'm not rational about environment any more than I am about population. I do equate the two, and I don't equate it in the sense that we can't feed 300 million or 400 million. Iowa could feed 500 million people, I think, from the best I can tell by flying over it. It isn't a question of feeding and housing. I suppose we can do it. But from a standpoint of the few wildernesses we have left that we ought to protect and expand, and we're overusing now, and from any kind of a keeping of a quality of life in this country that most of us might have been raised with and would like to pass on, we're not going to do it unless we limit population. As far as the president, he has done, in my mind, more in the environment. Well, he's done certainly more for the environmental field than any other president's done before. That's not a fair statement because we didn't start from a very high base before. It hasn't been a concern in this country for more than 5 years. But I would put environment along with world peace and population on such a high scale on my priorities that in the allocation of federal budgets, even if I had to cut in a variety of other places, environment, the acquisition of parklands, the attempting to save green belts around cities before they're all concreted in, all of these would occupy such a high priority in my mind that I cannot in honesty say the president has done everything that I would do or that I would like to do if I were in that situation. Let me go over here. What are the possibilities for the Republican Party becoming a majority party in the next 2 decades? Oh, I think about the same 100 to 1 odds that the president won't run. Are cutbacks in military expenditures likely? No, they're not. We've wrung out most of the money that we're going to wring out of the defense budget. If you take the three principal items of the defense budget, which is overseas military aid, military construction, and the defense budget, in the last year of President Johnson, it was $80 billion. This last year, it was about $76.5 billion. So it's actually down $3.5 billion despite the inflation between the 3-year periods. And what we have done, first, the way we've been able to do it is, one, cutting manpower. We have cut from 3.6 to 2.9 million people in the military. And so we've saved money there. We have put off much research and development. We have put off procurement of even basic weapons. We have stretched ourselves thin not only domestically in this country because of the Vietnam War, we have stretched ourselves thin militarily trying to fight the Vietnam War and giving up on any rational pursuit of a balanced military preparedness or procurement of rational weapons. So we're stretched thin in that direction. Then if we're going to move to the all-volunteer Army, we are faced with even higher manpower costs in the military. And we're not going to have an all-volunteer Army without, I think, a substantial increase in military pay. So I think the military budget's probably as low last year as it's likely to get. Yes, and then I'll go over here. What do I think about the high cost of campaigns and running for office? One of the worst afflictions that this nation suffers. It's bad enough running for Congress or the Senate, but we have reached the place now that there's no point in even thinking about running for the presidency unless you are either independently wealthy, or you have, really substantially independently wealthy, or you have access to friends who are independently wealthy and are willing to finance your campaigns, because in the primaries you've got no access to party funds. And it's just going to get worse with more and more primaries. At least when you had 4 or 5 primaries and the rest of the states were convention states, the primaries might have been expensive, but the convention states were reasonable. Now with 25 or 30 primaries, and any candidate feeling he's going to have to enter 8 or 9 or 10 of them at a minimum, most of the candidates are just going to be priced right out of the business. And all of them are feeling this pinch now. Birch Bayh, Ed Muskie, they've had to cut their funds. Even Scoop Jackson, with all of his connections with the military-industrial complex and wanting to run for the presidency, is feeling the pinch. I'm not satisfied. I voted for it. I'm not satisfied with the campaign limitation bill that the Senate passed this year, because I don't think it goes 1/10 far enough. But I'm not sure I know how to draw a bill that is constitutional, that would work. And when I say this constitutional, I'm not sure that the Supreme Court would say to a political candidate, realizing how carefully the Supreme Court cherishes the right of political expression, I'm not sure they would say to you, you can't spend $50 on a radio advertisement, or you can't spend $500 on a 15-second television blurb, or you can't spend $500,000 on billboards. I don't think they're going to allow Congress to set a limitation that interferes with the right of free speech. Now, there is a way around this if Congress has the courage. Congress is the judge of the fitness of its own members. And if Congress among themselves were to determine among themselves that they would not seat anybody who in the process of his campaigning advertised or used direct mail, we could substantially reduce campaigning costs. But this is really calling upon Congress to look at each other squarely in the eye and say, look, fellas, for the good of all of us and for the good of everybody in this country, we've got to start enforcing this kind of a system on ourselves. And I don't think Congress is going to do it. Yes. What do I think Congress will do about the Alaska pipeline, and what do I think about highway trust funds? I don't think Congress will do anything about the Alaska pipeline. I don't have enough personal knowledge about it to really give you an intelligent opinion. But I don't think Congress will do anything. I think eventually the Department of the Interior will probably license it, although it may run through Canada rather than through Alaska totally. As far as highway trust funds, don't like them. I don't like trust funds generally, and I don't like highway trust funds doubly generally. And I just wish once I could have been back in the Oregon legislature this last session when they took the highway lobby by surprise, and they got $1,800,000 out of the highway trust fund for the building of bicycle paths. And I thought that was a great stroke. And I would have loved to have seen these hundreds of the bicycle lobby, as they call them, riding down to the Capitol building, because it really took the highway lobby by surprise. You tell me when we got to go. I'll stay here all night. I don't have to leave till 7:30. Go ahead. Whoop, all right. Let me go way in back first, and then I'll come up here. Go ahead. I don't know. Well, I'll go as far back as we start and work up. Who's way back there? Go ahead. I think it's getting time to quit. Listen, we're going to continue on wherever we're going.
Right.
All right. Thank you very much.
We want to thank you, Senator Packwood, for a rare and refreshingly candid view of politics and 1972 elections. We would invite you to continue the dialogue with the Senator in the green room. For those of you who have not been there, you may exit to your left, and it's the area to the right just before you go out the final door. So you may come there and have a cup of coffee, punch, and interact with the Senator. Again, thank you very much. Let's give him another hand.